The world is losing their minds over Kansas City being 5-5. They're already being counted out despite having 7 games left to go in this season. One team that I'm always going to give the benefit of a doubt is the team that's been to the AFC Championship for over a decade. Every time you count the Kansas City Chiefs out, what do? They go on to end up winning it all. And this Chiefs team is the best team that they've had since 2019, 2020. They have a very good offensive line, a great group of receivers, and Mahomes has been playing the best football that he's played in over 2-3 years, along with a defense that still is top 5 in points per game allowed and top 10 in yards per game allowed, along with having a top 10 run defense. The Chiefs, there's no need to hit the panic button with this team. We act like the Chiefs didn't break the Baltimore Ravens, like they didn't dominate the Detroit Lions. They still have some very good wins. It's just that they have a lot more losses than what they've had in recent memory. But I remember back in 2023, the Chiefs started out hot, and then to end the season, they kind of limped into the playoffs. And remember when they had that wild card game against the Miami Dolphins, and you had a lot of folks out there saying that the Dolphins were going to win that game because the Kansas City Chiefs, they're struggling to get into the playoffs. The Chiefs have shown that the regular season doesn't matter. And that's not an ignorant statement to make. The Chiefs are one of those teams that's able to flip the switch when need to. The same Chiefs team that you see right now would not be the same Chiefs team that you see once they get into the playoffs. Why are people counting out a team that has shown that every time you count them out, they win the freaking Super Bowl? Yes, they won't win the AFC West. That was expected. Everybody was screaming at Chiefs fans that they were not going to win the AFC West for the 10th straight year in a row. The level of coaching, the level of talent in this division is a lot better than what has been in years past when they've dominated the West. Of course, either the Chargers or the Broncos were going to have their number this year. That still doesn't mean that the season is over for Kansas City. For the Chiefs to miss the playoffs, they need 4 more losses. Right now, they're 5-5. Their next 7 games, they easily can win them all. They play the Colts. They play the Cowboys on the road on Thanksgiving. The Texans, the Chargers, the Titans, the Broncos, the Raiders. The best case scenario is Kansas City wins out and they finish 12-5. Worst case, they go 4-3 in these last 7 games down the stretch and they finish 9-8. And they're on the outside looking in of the playoffs. My prediction is they go 6-1 this final 7-game stretch. And they end up getting in 11-6. And the last team that anybody wants to see in the playoffs in the wild card round is the Kansas City Chiefs coming into your trap. We know what the Chiefs do in the playoffs. The Texans, who are 5-5 with the Chiefs, they're irrelevant. They're not going to get in. They won't even beat the Bills on Thursday Night Football without CJ Stroud. And they won't beat the Chiefs either because they just don't have enough offensively to be able to score on Kansas City's defense. The Chargers, with the amount of injuries that they have, they could fall apart and miss the playoffs entirely. And the Texans also have to play the Colts 2 times, which I think the Colts probably split or they sweep the Texans completely. And only one team in the AFC North is going to get into the playoffs. Either the Ravens or the Steelers, and whoever doesn't win that division is going to be watching from Cancun. Like, the Chargers could be all right because they got Justin Herbert and John Harbaugh, but there also is a strong possibility that they could fall apart in the second half. After Thanksgiving is when the real football season begins, because that's when the contenders start to separate themselves from the pretenders. And right now, the Jaguars currently occupy the last available playoff spot in the AFC. And what's concerning for the Kansas City Chiefs playoff hopes is that with their losses to the Jags, the Chargers, they don't win in a lot of tiebreaker scenarios. So if they finish with the same records of any of those teams that they've lost to, they won't get in. Good thing is that I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to make it to the playoffs because of Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to throw away the Jaguars' playoff spot. The Jaguars have been winning games in spite of Trevor Lawrence. They've been carrying him with a good run game and a great defense. They always say the NFL is a quarterback-driven league. And when you have a guy who's dead weight at quarterback, it's easy to fall off in the second half of the season. You look at the Jaguars' schedule and you say, JT, how are the Jaguars going to fall off when they play an easy schedule down the stretch? Because when you have dead weight at quarterback and the guy in Trevor Lawrence that's 26 in QBR, has 11-8 touchdown interception ratio, is completing 59% of his passes, there's not a single game that you can look at on the Jaguars' schedule and say, yeah, they're not going to lose that game. Did you think the Jaguars were going to lose to Davis Mills and fall apart in the fourth quarter a few weeks ago? No. That's what happens when you have inconsistent quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence is the Kansas City Chiefs' best friend, because with him being so inconsistent and being average below average this year, the Jaguars are going to have a tough time down this stretch being able to hold on to that last playoff spot. And he will be the main reason for why everybody's biggest fear will come true once again. And the Chiefs backdoor their way into the playoffs. They end up knocking out whoever has the second seed in the first round. Looks like that's going to be either the Colts or the Patriots. In the divisional round, they either beat the Bills or they play the Denver Broncos again, and they find a way to end up being in the AFC Championship. I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I don't like the Chiefs. Just like a lot of you all are rooting for the Chiefs' downfall, there's not a bigger Kansas City Chiefs hater than me. But we got to be honest right now. The Chiefs, if there's any team in the NFL that deserves the benefit of a doubt, despite having a 5-5 start to this season, it is them. Because look what they've done in years past. This is their best team in years. I'm still kind of lost for words that their season has gone the way that it has up to this point. But Thanksgiving is when you start to see that separation. And the Chiefs have been counted out before. When you counted this team out in 2023, what did they do? They end up winning the freaking Super Bowl. This is the last team that anybody should be saying, yeah, they're going to miss the playoffs when we have 7 games left to go in this season. I have to see it to believe it. Until the Chiefs are actually not in the playoffs, I'm going to give them the benefit of a doubt and say, yeah, they'll find a way to turn it around and they'll get into the postseason, especially with one of the few playoff spots coming down to the consistency of Trevor Lawrence.